At NAMM, I saw some speakers that were way more expensive than I would ever care to spend. I will never purchase them. They're not for me. They will not be in my building, but I respect the company a whole lot for making them. Here's why. So at NAMM, we saw a ton of different stuff, a lot of different product innovations, and we put out a few videos on that. And if you want to check those out, go watch that after this video. Now, you guys know I've had a whole lot of different studio monitors in here, and I've kind of settled on Focal for both my A room and my B room. I've owned basically the full gamut of what Focal has to offer, from the Alpha lines to the Solos to the Twins. Now I'm running the Trios. Focal just unveiled their new flagship studio monitor. They're really mains. They are not meant for small spaces. They are meant for massive commercial facilities that need mains, the inset things in a wall. They can be on stands, but they're really meant to be installed into soffit mounts. And I will never, ever own these speakers. But what was really cool and really interesting about them, while talking to them, who were way smarter than I will ever be, because at NAMM, one of the benefits of going is you get to talk to the people building these products on the floor. And in this case, we got there early enough that we could kind of poke around and take a look at stuff. And it was the same guys developing and building these products as were there putting together the banners for the booths. That's the cool thing about NAMM. Hearing them talk about why and how they developed this, you could totally see it through the entire product development of Focal. It's not like they built something with a completely different soul. They've been developing and redeveloping their tweeters and their woofers for quite a while, which is why I really settled on the Trio 6s. Seeing how that new tweeter design follows the line through the entire product line and how it ends in this crazy flagship. Typically what you see is a speaker company will build something and then just kind of let it die. Let it sit there as it is. Move on to the next thing. Let it sit there. Let it die as it is. Move on to the next thing. What Focal is doing, they kind of work their way forward. They find a block. We need to fix this tweeter. They go fix this tweeter. Then they move back in the line. You see them give attention to every single stage of their product development, even with this crazy Utopia line that, again, I will never own. And this was a crazy interesting interview. I would like to say I learned some things, but there were definitely some spots where I blacked out. So if you're into speaker design and what is possible with speakers, this is an interesting conversation. So real quick, out of curiosity, like my background's with the Trio 6s, and as well, like goes way back to the Twins. So like having sit and listened to Focal for a while, like there's commonalities that I noticed, like even on these are insane. The stereo picture was wild. How much like did the tweeter design, like coming from the ST6s, does that inform this stuff to like a basic level, or is this just its own animal?
So yeah, we wanted to have a new tweeter design for the mains. Because at some point, when you look at the big ones, the 212s, you have two mid-range, two woofers, and you try to match to reach like really high SPL and keeping the accuracy at the same time. And that's not easy. I mean, on the Trio 6, you can reach like 115 dB SPL max at 1 meter. But then on those ones, you reach like 123. And just the design we used to have, like on the Trio 6, it's not, I would say, powerful enough to handle this kind of SPL.
Without getting to that level of
distortion, totally.
Deformation of the memory.
Exactly. So we developed a new tweeter, and so this is the new beryllium tweeter we use on the mains. Which this one is able to reach 123 dB SPL max at 1 meter. So,
explain to them like how we applied the suspension technology from other drivers into this, because like the regular tweeter, the beryllium tweeter you have on your Trio 6s has a certain suspension that they brought that technology from like the Shape series and all that. They brought that suspension tech to this.
Exactly. So you remember on the Trio 6, there is a small, the TMD we have on the suspension. So we kept the same idea on the suspension here. It's super tiny, but there is a really small bump, and you can find the simulations on the video we did, for the launch. And basically, we call that the DHS, damping hook system. It's like a hook. And basically it converts like a vertical movement into an horizontal movement. Okay. And it's really acting like the TMD, because instead of pulling and pushing the membrane to warp at some point, then it converts the movement, and that's allows the membrane to stay, to keep the same shape. So yeah, we put that on we have a patent on the TMD. We put that on the tweeter as well. So the suspension has that, and yeah, at the back of it. So this is a new magnet. So we can see that it's really the shape of the magnet has been made to make sure that there is no diffraction, there is no issues like compression at the back of the tweeter. On the 306, you already have the AIL at the back of the tweeter, which is quite a big volume. Here, it's kind of the same thing. We have a big ball. It's kind of a ball at the back of the tweeter, creating, we'd say, an infinite acoustic load. But in addition to that, you need to make sure that the magnet at the back of the membrane is not creating any diffraction, compression. So you can see the shape, like it's really hairy, and there's no sharp edges and things like that. So that was part of the big job. So new tweeter,
so new mid-range.
New mid-range.
So really acoustic mad scientist stuff.
Yeah, I'm kind of blacking out a little bit, but it's just
so here Sylvain will explain to you, like, as you can see, this is a driver that doesn't have a dust cap. I'll let him
explain that.
Go into that. You will also see that because it has no dust cap, like the voice coil attaches in a different way to the membrane. He'll explain why the driver is shaped like this, why it has no dust cap, why the magnet is this big in the voice coil. He'll get into that so that everyone can understand.
So as I was saying, earlier, the M shape is just a way to keep the same stiffness as the one you have, like the 5-inch you have on the 306, and but at the same time be closer to a planar, I would say, a flat cone. So yeah, that's right. So yeah, basically we kept the M shape for that, and like I say, dividing by 3 the depth, increasing, so multiplying by 3 all the issues, all the out of phase comb filtering you could get. And it gets to a point where it's no longer within the frequency range of the mid-range. And yeah, so that's just a pure mid-range, like, the one you have on the 306 compared to the old 306 is that we really made sure that we had a small suspension roll. So at the end, you're really focusing on small excursions. And I don't know if you know that, but why a three-way design is kind of sounding better on the mid-range rather than a 2-way? You know that? Mm-hmm. No?
It
feels better. It's because of the Doppler effect. The Doppler, like like a car. It's the same thing. Like if you try to have a big membrane doing at the same time the low end and doing a lot of, making a lot of excursion and big movement, and at the same time doing really tiny movements to recreate the mid-range, then you're gonna get something like the woofer will be acting like this, and that's gonna pitch. In a way, it's gonna pitch the mid-range, because trying to do at the same time a huge movement and at the same time a tiny movement, that's gonna look like a Leslie cabin or something like that, right? It's gonna it's gonna sound that way. So having a pure mid-range, that's just the best way to have the clarity and all the accuracy you're looking for in the mid-range. And that's a jump.
That was the first thing I noticed with them, and like, what's interesting, having a set of the Evos for a future Atmos room, having a set of Trio 6s, having the past twins, and now sitting in front of these, which I will never own, but seeing the lineage of like all of this stuff and the thought process, and like, this relates to this. I see the tweeter design in here. I like the transient response, and then I feel it here too. So it's not like you have a completely different line of speakers. It's one lineage of thought.
Those speakers are here to show exactly who we are. Like, that's the Coca sound, I would say. They're just pushing like I said, like just pushing the boundary, the philosophy around Beryllium tweeter, having a perfect pistonic movement regarding any driver. So that's just pushing it hard.
It's also the culmination of all the technologies that Focal works on, and like, how can they make? Okay, they found this really interesting technology for mid-ranges like the tune-mass damper. Okay, how do we apply that to the next thing and the next thing, and how do we apply this shape of the driver to the next thing, and to headphones, and now to the tweeters, and now even to the car audio and home audio, and everything ends up going full circle. What I think, and I don't want to make the video super lengthy, but I think it would be interesting
check the amp
to check the amp, and also give just a little brief overview of like the really low end. So
Yeah.
what are we using for the drivers and also the port cabinet?
That was a big challenge too, because at some point you need to reach like high SPL and still keep the accuracy. So you don't want to have like a cabinet which could be warping at some point. So that's a big challenge. So basically, the weight of this one is 120 kilograms.
320 pounds.
Thanks, man. Stupid European guys. So yeah, it's kind of heavy. Because
Kind of, yeah.
yeah, the front panel, just picture that, the front panel is made of MDF with like 50 millimeter.
I can't. We're Europeans. We don't know
Okay.
the inches of it.
We'll put it up.
50 millimeter thick. The front panel is like super thick, and the rest of
So the Trio 6 was what,
25.
25 millimeter MDF. This is double on the front panel and 30
Of the sides, exactly.
Yeah.
And inside there are like, tubes to absorb any resonances inside the box, and also there are like a bracing network to make sure, because we did like a lot of warping studies to be sure, like putting a lot of stickers on the cabinet, and with lasers we were able to like measure exactly which spot were like not
Resonating.
exactly.
Yeah.
So we have like bracings inside just to make sure that it's super stiff, and the sound you hear is only coming from the drivers and not the box, which is just warping. And then the port, it's a huge, like massive port, just to be sure there is no turbulences, there is no like vortexes, anything like really, making noise. So yeah, it's just a noiseless port.
Just keep in mind, like with very, with cheap loudspeakers, we probably also all felt that effect of like when you're cranking the level up of the speaker, you start to hear these weird like noises, even sometimes feeling the air blasting in your face from the front
Yes.
port. And the optimization that's required to make sure that none of that happens, like at this level of SPL, at this level of moving air and creating sound pressure, it takes a lot. So all of these, like you will see also from the Trio 6, but here you see that the shape of the port is never like, there's never a sharp edge, because any sharp edge is just like a 90-degree angle somewhere in a room. It creates like specular and harsh reflections or diffraction effects. And that's why we minimize that by making everything round and smooth in its head.
And you can see on the video, we did a video for when we launched the mains, like the story behind the project, and you can see like some simulations we ran, like where you can see the airflow inside the port, things like that. Like there is a simulation you can see, it's the port of the Trio 6 we simulated, so you can see the difference between the old Trio 6 where we were able to see like some vortexes, and the new port where it's super fluid.
Smooth,
Yeah, it's super smooth.
So let's just go to the amp to
And then the
finalize
amp,
this.
for those speakers, since they can be soffit mounted, so
Yeah.
we have a separate amplification which is not inside the box. So you can see here they are like two speak-on cables.
Yeah.
So the box is technically purely passive. There's just the LED, and the filtering. All the filters are inside the amp, so that's why you need two speak-on cables. We just provide this kind of 2-meter speak-on cable just to run them, and then you can buy any kind of speak-on cable, because this one is an 8 connector and this one is a 4 connector. So you have two woofers and 2 mid-ranges on this one, and the tweeter and the LED power on this one too. And yeah, I mean, everything is done with this amplifier. We have a patent on this amplification, because on the subwoofers we have a Class D amp, and on the tweeter and the mid-range it's a Class H, more or less the same kind of class we have on the Trio 6, but it's current mode amplification, so it means that we control directly the current on the output of the amplification, and that directly controls the force applied to the membrane. There is a bunch of equations, like a quick check on the video. We explain that basically the equation between the link between the force you apply on the membrane and the current you provide is F equals B, which is the magnetic field within the coil, times L, which is the length of the coil, times I, which is the current. But then the link between the current and the voltage you know, it depends on the impedance of the driver, and that changes a lot. I mean, just depending on the position of the coil within the magnet, then the impedance is not the same. And like at some point when a driver it moves, it starts to heat up, you see, and then with the temperature, the resistance of the coil starts also to change. So when you control just the voltage, you don't necessarily control everything around the force you apply on the driver. So the transparency, all those things are really achievable thanks to the current type of application. So yeah, that's just the amplifier. And since it's just like a no limit project, we were like, okay, instead of having, you know, just a low shelf and high shelf and all the things you have on a Trio 6, let's have like PQs. Since you can soffit mount the speaker, so there is a soffit filter we apply to correct, you know, to compensate the soffit mounting. You can put a plug in the port. Like if you're looking for something more, you know, tight and something on the line, you're not looking for like crazy SPL. You can pull the plug in the port, and then there is a filter to compensate that. And yeah, you can, I don't know, like kill the auto standby. That's pretty standard. Yep. Or you can adjust the trim for each driver, like minus to plus 1 dB, minus 1 to plus 1 dB. Or so yeah, you can fine tune perfectly on site.
Jeez.
So yeah, that's it's been like I said, just under the radar project for 7-8 years. And this mid-range, the first sketches regarding the current modification started like 2012, and it's been a big thing.
Feels like I just got a master class.
No,
I know this much about what you're talking about, but I am really glad you do. Because this sounds freaking great.
Thanks, man. Well, check the video on YouTube. It's kind of, you know, going slowly. Sorry, it's in French, but you know, and it's with subtitles. And you know, it's smoothly going through all the technology, all the stuff we put together. And on the website, there are like white papers and stuff. You know, just talking about all those things. So, dude, take it easy.
Love it. Thank you, man. If you guys stuck around to the end of that video, you're a champ. If you want to check out more stuff with NAMM, go check out this video. This side. I have no idea, where we ask really silly questions to different exhibitors. Enjoy.